thing.
What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Here the Spear, presented to you by NoleGameday.com. We're here live on a wonderful, fantastic Thursday double episode week kind of edition for us. It's a busy one as the Florida State Seminoles hit the practice fields yesterday. Dustin was in attendance for that, along with one of our editors, writers, Tommy. They were out there in that heat. Welcome to the fun, my friend. It is very, very hot. This heat wave sucks here, but still, nonetheless, though, we got to see a little bit of action, the only kind of action that we're going to get at a practice, because after yesterday, everything is on complete lockdown. So we're going to give three of our biggest takeaways from this practice, with Dustin being there in attendance. He took a lot of videos, so we're going to be bringing that up on the screen, and we'll dive into a little bit of that because we don't have much more else we can do throughout the rest of this camp except for hear from things from the inside and have to go through channels to try to get some kind of information. Don't get to see it with your own eyes. So it will be an interesting camp, but still, nonetheless, we're going to try to do our best to give you some good coverage for you guys as we head into week one between Florida State and Alabama. With me is Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer, and then all the way to the other side is Dustin Lewis, our editor-in-chief. Gentlemen, good to see you guys again. This is what happens when football is back. We see each other a lot more, and looking forward to talking about some fall camp.
We'll take it. Definitely easier to look you in the face when there's football to talk about.
Jeez. That's all it takes. I mean, we'll take it. Get ready, because it's going to be a long season ahead. We got a long ways to go, as we've learned in the new college football landscape. Season doesn't end in December, and definitely didn't. It ended a little bit earlier last year for FSU. I would say maybe way earlier, but still, with recruiting, NIL, transfers, it is a busy year all around. But we got to be out there. I mean, you got to be out there. Dustin, what were your first off, what were the vibes like? We saw Mike Norvell roll in. We saw the quarterbacks and a lot of these guys. What were your first impressions from some of these dudes? Because we talked about it in one of our last episodes about some of these weight gains, guys putting in work in the weight room, different shaped bodies. What was your first impressions of some guys? And if you can note on any of importance?
Well, first off, I mean, I thought the vibes were really high. I mean, obviously last season went to the wayside, and by the time things were getting towards the end of that 2024 campaign, there were some guys that were still bringing energy to practice, and there were others where it was kind of like, all right, we got dead men walking here. A little bit of a different vibe going into day one of the preseason in Tallahassee this year. A lot of excitement, a lot of energy, a lot of guys talking, chirping back and forth. I thought Jeremiah Wilson walking in for his first practice at Florida State. I mean, he seemed focused, had some real energy about him, and he was a guy that Mike Norvell highlighted after the day. But I mean, as far as guys, gaining or losing weight, one that stood out to me off the hoof immediately, Luke Pettibone, FSU's projected starting center, walking into practice. But he's put on some weight this offseason, up to 310 pounds. That seems to be treating him quite well. And then seeing Amari Williams, I mean, walking out for his second season at the college level, where, I think a lot of people remember this was a guy who was originally a member of that 2025 class and would be going into his first season at a college campus if he hadn't have reclassified and signed with Florida State. I mean, this guy, despite being a sophomore, he's still one of the younger guys on the entire roster. And he's another one who put in some serious work and going to be working at both defensive end and tight end during fall camp per Mike Norvell and Chris Thompson.
Any coaches out there bring some energy? I'm going to pull up a video here in just a few, but just wondering your first impressions. I know we got like a little sprinkle to see it a tiny bit in the spring, but that was a lot of the where you're getting in different opportunities, getting in the system, understanding where you need to be in scheme and all that kind of stuff. So there's an adjustment in the spring, but now it's full steam ahead. And these guys are expected to understand how how the coaches do with now Tony White, also Gus Malzahn. But what was some of the things that maybe stood out to you from this new coaching staff and the viewing period that you had?
Well, obviously, Mike Norvell was bringing it. I mean, similar to what Veazey saw at ACC kickoff, and I think that continued into the media luncheon that we had earlier this week. But, I mean, he's certainly bringing that fire, pushing guys every rep, like you would expect from Mike Norvell on the practice field. And that really trickled down to the rest of the coaching staff. I mean, this was my first time being out there and seeing some of these guys operate. I wasn't able to go to the lone open scrimmage that Florida State had open back during the spring. I was actually in Detroit. But anyway, getting a chance to see Tim Harris Jr. working with those wide receivers, I mean, he absolutely brings the fire. And,
Wow.
if a guy does a rep that he doesn't like, he's quick to let them know about it in words that I won't repeat on this podcast. And you had a lot of guys going back and having to do their reps over because Harris Jr. just wasn't happy with the execution or the effort, or he thought that shit was soft. Either way. And then the other two that I thought were bringing it, obviously Odell throughout his coaching career, he's a guy that's known, you're across the practice field, you can hear Odell's voice booming. I mean, no matter what. And despite him, stepping back a little bit and still being involved with that defensive line, but Terrence Knighton now stepping into that primary position coach role, Odell was all cylinders go, and then you had Terrence Knighton right there with him. And I mean, both those guys are just going back and forth with the defensive line. And I mean, really, really getting after those guys. You had Terrence Knighton come out and challenge James Williams and let him know, they just call you a pass rusher. And obviously Williams, now at Florida State, trying to unlock that next part of his game, become an every down defensive end, and he's pushing them. And you saw him pushing the true freshman, Kevin Wynn. You even saw Daryl Jackson getting pushed. And I thought Daryl, responded very well. And this was a guy who was being vocal out there and letting the defensive line know. So, we've talked about him stepping into that leadership role. And I thought at least on day one, you fully saw that.
Let's get a little sneak peek here on Terrence Knight and what it's like. We got Mike Norvell walking by. Let's see. And then we got Big Meech to the right over here. Got to give a shout out. Meech reached out to me. He's a listener of Hear the Spear. And, he caught my my mistake there of not remembering his damn at the time. Remember,
as he should have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got to be held accountable. Everybody's going to be held accountable. So I got to do better. But yeah, here is a defensive line unit working, and Terrence Knighton getting after these boys.
What time was the first game? Same weather. We can't be tired. Let's go. We'll wait for it. Let's go.
Not wrong. If you can't really understand what he's saying there, so it's a little tough, but he's saying this is the same exact weather that these guys are going to be playing Alabama with at 3:30 kickoff. I don't know if that has anything to do with the scheduling of these practices, but these things will move back into the mornings and such. But I think for as of right now, during the summertime, they're able to get these later afternoon practices in. But still, Terrence Knighton laying it down to these boys. If they're getting tired early like this, you just wait until when you're in a true game and you're facing an opponent that's ready to get after your ass. Being straight up with them, man. And I mean, I wish I was there at this practice at least, because there's only one of them for the media to view. But that tandem now with Knighton, and we were wondering this whole offseason what it would look like with Odell Higgins. How hands-on was he going to be? And nothing much has really changed, to be honest with you. It doesn't seem like.
No. And I mean, that was really the thing that stood out to me going into this first practice is the defensive line. I mean, there's some serious size there, and obviously Jackson Jr. kind of towers over everybody, but I mean, there are some other guys there. We've talked about Daniel Lyons, KJ Sampson, obviously Kevin Wynn. You saw James Williams walking in. It seems like he's continued to progress his frame. And I think a big one for Florida State, a guy that missed the spring with a lower body injury and, was injured actually before spring practice, but that's defensive end transfer from Tennessee, participated in the college football playoff last year, Jason Jenkins. And, it seemed like Florida State wasn't really sure if he was going to be on the field when the preseason opened, but this is a guy who's put in a ton of work since that injury, went through the rehab process. Daryl Jackson Jr. actually spoke about it at the ACC kickoff and mentioned it as an Achilles injury. So it's pretty crazy to see a guy get back on the field this fast. And, he was in that drill going there on the bags, and we'll just have to see how it continues here for Jason Jenkins. But this is a guy with the potential to contribute on the inside or outside for Florida State, and now they're really getting their first look at him out there on the field in garnet and gold.
Yeah, having Jenkins get back is really important for this pass rush, because that's one of my concerns is there's not a lot of experience outside of maybe your two or three guys, I would say, that are at this level of competition, and Jenkins has played that. We've seen where James Williams can, but he also has to take strides, like you were saying earlier, of being a 3-down pass rusher. But I'm looking at some of these guys on the D-line as well, and there's KJ Sampson in the back, Daniel Lyons.
With that number 5
it's hot
on
out there. Huh?
Daniel Lyons with the 5 on. I mean, it looks clean.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was like, damn, what the hell is Farmer doing back here? He should be up there in training camp with the Patriots. But yeah, I mean, hitting some sled work early. It seemed, Mike Norvell is always running around. What also, too, one of my biggest takeaways is look at that football only facility, gentlemen. I mean, that looks beautiful. I wonder what it looked like in person to you, because that had to have been like, holy smokes, a whole 180 from what we're used to looking at.
I mean, man, it's really nice, and the video doesn't even do it justice. Just being up there close in person, it's really an excellent facility, and you can tell Florida State. And I mean, we've seen it now for the past couple of years, but they put in a ton of work there. And once they actually get a chance to move into that building and get to utilize some of those amenities that are kind of special around college football, we'll just see if that helps this team continue to get back on the right track. But not only with the new facility, but right there where the guys are working out, that's the new artificial turf field. And I mean, that thing was sleek as well.
Yeah, and I wonder now, is that is there any real turf anywhere now out there? I mean, there's got to be.
Yeah, so they've got the 100-yard practice field, the one that's closer to Dick Hauser. And then they've got this one, the artificial turf field. I think it's about 70 yards or so, give or take. And then obviously, the IPF is still the artificial turf, but another 100-yard field there. So I did see some Miami fans trying to make jokes about Florida State not having a 100-yard field, but they technically got 2 of them before you even add that 70-yard field into the equation. So just wanted to quiet that narrative.
Can I point something out about that video real quick?
Yeah.
This is how you know T-Knight is an absolute madman. How hot was it yesterday? 100 degrees?
Maybe even a little bit hotter on the heat index. I mean, I'm telling you, it took about 5 minutes. My forehead was like a sprinkler, just dripping.
This man is wearing all black, head to toe, quarter zip with the lightweight hoodie underneath and sweatpants. What is going on, T-Knight?
This guy's a freak, man.
That's how you know. That's how you know he's a lunatic.
I want lunatics.
I agree.
I want people out of their minds as my defensive lines coach. I mean, I know you do too. I mean, that's what we want.
Yeah, that's absolutely what you want. It's absolutely what you want from your trenches. But dude, all black, sweatpants, lightweight hoodie, and quarter zip. Whew.
No,
he's making a statement.
Yeah, that's something Todd Bowles does in practice. He's got sweats on. He's got a full-on thick hoodie on as well. I don't know how he does it down here. And then I don't even see any sweat. I'm like, if I had that on, I'd have to be put into an ambulance immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Did they actually have D-Lo? Were you able to catch if they had that cold incubator out there for camp?
I don't remember seeing it yesterday, but
Good.
If I am thinking about it correctly from years past, I think that comes in a couple days into camp, and it's not always there on day one. So, I mean, maybe next week, whenever the practices move, to that 9 a.m. to around 11:30 mark, then they'll probably have that thing ready to utilize, because there are going to be some guys that need it. I mean, it was hot out there. You definitely saw some of the players struggling a little bit trying to acclimate to that heat. And obviously it's always a process in late July, early August in Tallahassee. It's a grind out there.
Yeah, no. And you know what? If you didn't put in the work this offseason, if you didn't condition yourself, get on a good diet, hydrate, everything of that magnitude, it shows up in day one immediately. And it'll certainly show up later this afternoon, because it ain't going to get cooler. We know that living in Tallahassee, it doesn't get cooler. You have still air. It just sits on you definitely when it's humid, because it's going to rain twice a day. It's going to suck. And you're going to find out early who took care of themselves before going into camp. It seems like you made it through fine. You were able to get your electrolytes in and hydrate well. So that's good. But let's not talk about you though, Dustin. We got to go to look at some guys walking in. We got to watch a little bit of film. This is all we get. But we'll take anything we can retrieve here. But here we go. We got some walk-ins here from the quarterback room. Tommy Castellanos coming in with Brock Lynn. Brock Lynn, you can definitely see the size added on from him, definitely in his legs, I would say more than anything. He looks a lot bigger. Did he look that way to you in person, D-Lou?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like the size definitely stood out for Brock, and he threw the ball pretty well. I mean, we didn't get to really see a ton downfield yesterday. Just some passes out of the backfield to running backs, short screen throws, couple corner routes to the sideline. They didn't really open it up during those 4 periods the media was allowed to be out there. But I thought Brock, I thought Tommy were both crisp for the most part.
That's good. Yeah, let's go up here now. I got Amari Williams. You were talking about him earlier as a guy that going into his second year, I mean, it looks like he could just be a vet going into his third or fourth, just the way that he's put on some size. Someone that I don't think I would ever have any concern if I'm Coach Storms of if he's getting his workouts in and doing the right thing dieting-wise. But here he is next to Landon Thomas, which could be a tandem for the future of Florida State's tight end room.
He's filled out, man. And I think Amari, to me, he's a little bit bigger than Landon Thomas right now. And like I said, Amari obviously younger than Landon, a lot of potential with that dude. And Florida State, they're going to throw a lot at him these next couple of weeks and see if he does have that ability to play both ways during this 2025 season. They believe that he can contribute at tight end. And then obviously there's a pretty big need over there at that defensive end jack position for a guy like Amari Williams to come out and be a pass rusher, which Florida State, originally recruited him as a defensive lineman. It just seemed like it was a quicker path to get him on the field by playing offense last year. But I mean, they're really high on this kid, and man, I think he could be a big time game changer for Florida State in 2025 if everything goes to plan.
Here are some of the defensive linemen running through. First off, I mean, yeah, Daniel Lyons. I'll you know what? I feel better. I think that was just a bad shot that we saw on social media from Danny. I think he looks better, and I'm over it. Who is that? Who was that in the back?
Those are the twins.
Oh, that ain't 99.
Well, 99 is a flag, I believe. But 93.
Hey, since he's because he got rid of the hair. Did he cut his hair? I think Jamori did cut his hair because he showed up as a freshman with locks, but I think he cut him up. But he's trimmed up a little bit. He was a big boy. Jamori trimmed up a little bit too. I can tell. Still got himself a good belly there. But yeah, the Desir twins, them boys, they don't look like true freshmen coming in, man. I mean, there's a few of these guys on the team that I think are addicted to the weight room, like Cam Davis being one of those dudes. But man, oh man, yeah, these Desir twins, and not only like just size wise, like it's cool that we talk about size, blah blah blah, but from what we heard in the spring too, like these guys have been impressive and has shown some good upside for Terrence Knighton in his first year as a defensive lines coach.
They're on the fast track, and I mean, this really came out of nowhere. I don't know how many people remember, but Florida State actually flipped these guys from UCF the day after that blowout loss to Notre Dame. So I'm sure not a lot of fans were happy at that moment and maybe didn't pay attention to the commitments. But I mean, since these two have arrived in Tallahassee, they've done everything right. I mean, jumped right into the strength and conditioning program. You can tell by the size that they put on. I mean, they look really good when you think about these are two true freshmen going into their first years at the college level. And, unclear how much they'll both play in 2025, but with the way they've worked so far, they're giving themselves the best opportunity to get on that field.
I'm going to go ahead and say it right now for all of our listeners and followers. This guy right here, Jeremiah Wilson, this is how you show up. And I know that it's just, you're just walking into practice, yada, yada, yada. But I go back to days of like Jared Verse when he came in and he set how this practice is going to go, at least for himself individually. And I don't know what he's saying. I don't know if you remember what he was saying, D-Lou, but I remember we were on the phone. This kid is showing up amped up to be at practice. And not only is he like that, but I mean, he's one of your top transfers that you brought in. But this boy's ready to go. And that's what I want. That's what I want on day one. And I want to see it continue as well.
Yeah, I think this guy, I mean, he's going to be a very good piece on Florida State's defense in 2025. And like we talked about, I mean, bringing the energy, bringing the passion to his first day in practice. I'm sure he's excited to be back in the state of Florida where he's from. And, Deuce Robinson had some really high praise for Jeremiah Wilson following practice. Deuce said that he tries to get up to the facility pretty early every morning to put in some work, go watch film. And he's like, every morning when I get there, Jeremiah Wilson's car is already in the parking lot. And he's like, I would be trying to get there earlier and earlier, and he's still always there. And he also mentioned he's like Wilson has gone through so much film and learned so much about Florida State's roster that he can already tell each wide receiver what their strengths and weaknesses are. So like I said, I think this guy's doing everything right on and off the field with his commitment in the film room. And that could be really important for this Florida State team as they look to bounce back on defense. Now they've got a veteran cornerback in Jeremiah Wilson, provide some real experience in that room behind the youngsters who are hoping to rise up.
All about it. All about it. I mean, that is what you want. This is what you want. And he was one of your top transfers coming in. I think that was a solid grab for them. We talked about it in our fall camp preview where they needed to add some veteran experience into there. Here's a good look at Kai Bates and Charles Lester, the third two guys that are competing, trying to get up in there, trying to get themselves in a rotation of some sort into this defense under Tony White. And I think it's going to be very intriguing how some of these 2-year DBs do look going into this fall camp for them. Let's go over to Luke, or not Luke. God dang. Oh, shit. Gunnar Hansen's massive. Gunnar Hansen's a big boy. Like you said here in the tweet, he missed a spring due to an injury, but Gunnar Hansen's a big cat.
330 pounds.
Yeah, what was your impression of some of these guys on the offensive line coming in now with Herb Hand as being the offensive lines coach?
Yeah, like I talked about, I mean, Luke Pettibone stood out immediately with that size he's put on. Also, Gunnar Hansen. I didn't get a video of Micah Pettis, but, I mean, that dude absolutely towers over everybody, and you can tell that he's near that 350-pound mark. And then, as far as some of the younger guys, we talked about Chaston Brown coming in at around 265 pounds. I mean, he was out there at practice. Definitely a tall, leaned out guy, but I mean, he moves extremely well for an offensive lineman. And I think as he continues to add strength and weight to his frame, I mean, this could be a good one for Florida State in a couple of seasons. But, the offensive line, they were working pretty hard out there with Coach Hand. And, Coach Hand was another one where he was pushing these guys in the heat. He didn't care that they were tired. And, I mean, he wanted to get the best effort possible out of every single rep. And, some of the younger guys had to go back and do some reps over. Same thing with some of the older guys. I think from top to bottom, you can tell this Florida State coaching staff is pushing this roster to be as good as they can be.
I think like Luke Pettibon too said that, he feels really good, even with the size added on. He feels like he's the most athletic he's been with that size. And, the one thing that's been continuous throughout this offseason is him being named one of the bigger leaders on this team. And I think that's so damn important for the offensive line, definitely for your center as well. You need that so badly. And, Maurice Smith tried to do his best at what he could do. But for the most part, when Alex Atkins is shuffling people left and right beside, he doesn't really help too much. And he can't stay healthy too. But, the offensive line is going to predicate how this team is going to do coming up into this season. Here is Chase Lofton, guy that has some good tight end size here. Coming in 23 is such a weird number for a tight end. I don't know what to do about that one, VZ. We got to
Jordan, baby.
Absolutely hate it.
MJ. Real quick though, as Bryson Estes right next to him, we noticed that Bryson Estes, with that loss of weight, or he's always been lesser of weight for an offensive lineman, he's over there working with the tight ends. If I'm correct,
can't believe I joked about it and it ended up being true.
Yeah, it came to fruition for you.
You spoke it into existence, but yeah, I didn't realize it at first. I mean, you had these guys walking in. I just thought it was a couple of walk-on tight ends, honestly, and got out there to the point where the tight ends were getting some passes thrown to him by the quarterbacks, and a pass went through his hands, and I heard a coach shout Estes, but it just didn't click at the time. And then, Bryson Estes down to 269 pounds, I believe. And he's going to be working at tight end and offensive line this spring. Mike Norvell talked about it after practice. Estes obviously going into his final season of eligibility in Tallahassee, and Florida State is just looking for a way to get him on the field in 2025. Primarily has been on the field goal team the last 2 years, with this weight loss, Mike Norvell talked about maybe there's a potential for him to be in there whenever they have multiple tight ends as more of a blocking tight end. He really wants to see how he responds to this position change once the pads come on.
I was going to say the only way he's going to see the field, it's not going to be on offensive line. Now, tight end, there's a potential there for being a blocking guy, and you match that with, with the availability or what's going on week to week with Marquiston. So, I mean, you like that as a plus because you're looking at a handful of guys like we were talking about Amari Williams being one that has that athletic ability with the pass catching talent too, with Landon Thomas, and what you got in the versatility of Randy Pittman. So this tight end room continues to kind of strengthen in all different avenues. Here's Jabril Rawls, man, one that has been, if you take a plus or anything green from the 2024 season, he's one of those guys, and you can expect a big competitive fall camp for him of trying to get into that early rotation this upcoming season. But he seems to look pretty damn good, and he flies around, as we know, and puts himself in some good spots. Elijah Moore rocking 81, 300. Kenny Shaw, shout out to our guy Kenny here, the Spear alum, a few times, but also too Squirrel White coming in as well. A fully healthy camp for him, the first time since arriving into Tallahassee. But that's your deep ball, deep threat there for Thomas Castellanos coming up into this upcoming season. I don't know if you got to see and have any observations of him catching some passes yesterday.
Not really, unfortunately.
No.
Not really while we were out there during that period. Did see Elijah Moore grab a couple of those short screen passes. I mean, he's moving really well out there. Obviously, you see him running in on this video, a guy that has always brought the energy since he arrived at Florida State. And I think we talked about it last week while kind of previewing the offense. But I mean, if Elijah Moore can harness some of that potential and begin to take a real step as he goes into year 2 at Florida State, that could provide a big boost of depth there at the wide receiver position and maybe shake some things up in the rotation. There's a lot of young guys competing for playing time. We'll see how it works out with the LaWayne McCoys, Mekhi Danzy, obviously BJ Gibson back out there, trying to earn some playing time. And, Gavin Blackwell, also the UNC wide receiver transfer, who's got a ton of experience, maybe not a ton of production throughout his college career. I definitely thought his speed flashed on day one on some of those reps, and Mike Norvell brought him up as well.
Okay. Here is Deuce, your expected wide receiver 1 coming into the season. And I am kind of shocked that whenever, Deuce is the one that always shows up to practice. He always shows up to workouts. He shows up to whatever's going on. It seems like day to day he's in there with Jeremiah Wilson, like he said, but that work ethic has shown a lot and has impressed this coaching staff in a whole lot of different ways. But, I'd love if we got more opportunities to see this guy in action. Definitely when you're seeing, Jeremiah Wilson, what that could look like, and some one-on-one opportunities. Because back in the day, you'd be up on top of Dick Hauser watching down and get the binoculars out, and those guys would run over to some red zone work, and you'd get one-on-one. And man, it would be super fun to watch Deuce Robinson go at it with Jeremiah Wilson, and also to these other corners that are trying to compete for starting jobs. But Deuce Robinson expected to be your star, one of your star players on offense coming into this upcoming season.
It sounded like Deuce had at least one big play during one-on-ones. He was one of the receivers that Mike Norvell highlighted by name. And, obviously the frame, the athleticism, this guy is expected to be extremely good for the Seminoles, and now getting back out there on the practice field after an injury limited him a little bit back during the spring. I personally think that this guy is going to become a fan favorite for Florida State fans. I mean, not only getting a chance to see him work on the field, but just also the type of guy that he is off the field. His press conference yesterday, extremely impressive. I mean, very complimentary of, the coaching staff, and also talked highly, obviously, of Jeremiah Wilson, multiple other players on offense. And I mean, just seems like a genuine down-to-earth type of guy that a lot of people can relate with.
That's what we like. Here is Marquise and Douglas coming in, trimmed up, biscuit right there. We've got Mekhi Danzy, who's now working with the wide receivers, who had a really impressive freshman year on the track and field. But here he is walking in, and really interested to see how Gus Malzahn's going to utilize his speed, because he's super exciting to watch. Here's Earl Little Jr., man. We've heard a lot of things from Mike Norvell on him and his leadership and the tenacity and energy he's been bringing to practices. He's hoping to have a bounce back season this year as well. And, you got to, like you said in the tweet here, hopefully someone that can set that tone early for you in training camp. Let's keep moving here. We're getting close to where we're going to see some on the field work, but I don't want to miss anybody that's coming in that looks good. Here's Conrad Hussey. Speaking of someone that wants to have a bounce back season, that's him. KJ Kirkland, one of your favorites there at the safety position. And then here comes Shamar Arnu, someone that was talked about a ton in the spring. I'll stop the shot here, but here he is. He's a slim little dude. He's a slim dude coming in, but one that seemed to be giving absolute fits to the offense during the spring, D-Lou.
Yeah, gonna have to put on some weight, but I mean, with the way that he's worked so far, and I mean, really started to build a name for himself on the practice field, there's a path to playing time for Shamar Arnu in 2025 at Florida State. We're gonna have to see how it works out during this fall camp. Obviously, they've reinforced that position a little bit with the addition of Jeremiah Wilson, and he wasn't here with the team during the spring. So there's a lot of competition in that room. You have to think Jeremiah Wilson probably has one of those starting jobs locked up. At the other position, you've got Jabril Rawls and Quindarius Jones really pushing for that starting spot. But there's room for Shamar Arnu in the rotation if he can display some consistency throughout the preseason.
Here's Jalen Lucas coming in here after the injury he suffered last year. What you got?
And that's
he is shorter than the fence.
He's a tiny guy, but
he is tiny. It's good to see him back out there, though.
I liked what Coach David Johnson said about him on Tuesday. He was asked, is Jalen Lucas a running back? Is he a wide receiver? Mm-hmm. And Johnson said, well, he's a stick of dynamite. I mean, he's just a guy that you put anywhere and he can potentially create an explosive play. So despite that size, and the way that he's walking in, there were some people responding to my tweet and saying, well, he doesn't look healthy. Like that's just kind of how he walks. We got to see him out there. He was on the field yesterday. He actually wasn't with the running backs on Wednesday. Yesterday, he was practicing, at least while we were out there for those 4 periods, exclusively with the wide receivers. So, I mean, it does seem like there's a plan to kind of work him at multiple spots, maybe see where he fits the best. But either way, I mean, his versatility is a major tool for Florida State if they can figure out how to use him correctly.
Let's say sometimes guys walk that way. Definitely if you do have an injury like that, but he's a full go. I think of like Mike Evans. He's a guy that in training camp you think, oh my goodness, is he practicing today? And he's completely fine. It's just the way that he walks. It's just the way some of these guys go. I already looked at Luke Pettibon. Here's Camden Fryer, which I would hope something can click for that kid, because he's kind of a secret little dude that, man, he's got some absolute speed. He's given DBs fits before, but he dealt with that injury last year, so that limited him a ton. But seems like he's a full go. And then you got freshman DB Max Redman, number 21, going beside him. But here we are on the field. Gentlemen, what do you got? Why are we shaking our head there, VZ? What's going on?
If I see a screen pass in the first drive in the Alabama game, I'm turning the TV off. And that's all we got videos of yesterday.
Here is the overblown instant reaction part of this show right here. This is where we start freaking out, right?
Well, it's funny. It's funny you would say that, VZ. I actually got the script for the opening drive of the first game, 20 consecutive screen passes.
Oh, nice. That would be exciting.
I would actually break my TV. I would be so upset.
But here is Usman Kroma. We'll get a better look here in just a second. But Brock Lynn throwing a little short pass over to the true freshman. Here's a good look at UNC transfer wide receiver Gavin Blackwell repping. What number is that?
6.
But you said he looked like he had some speed. Of course, these are just, you're going through some walkthrough stuff and some install periods, but just warming things up. There's Gus in the back. It seems like what is Gus Malzahn like to you? And we've only been able to see one literal practice, but your initial takeaway from him out on the field, because when it comes to media and everything, and we all believe that, he's shut down the media, he don't want anybody out there. But what does it look like with him on the field? How hands-on is he with the quarterbacks? Is he primarily there, or does he kind of bounce around a little bit?
Yeah, it felt like for the most part, he like when he was with the quarterback and stuff, he was taking a lot of time to watch. But I mean, at the same time, this is a guy who was very stern, and he wasn't afraid if a wide receiver ran a route that wasn't fully correct, or if a ball bounced off their hands. He was having those reps redone, going and talking to guys. I remember him having a conversation with Mekhi Danzy after a pass had bounced off his hands. I mean, maybe not bringing the level of energy you're getting from a Mike Norvell, but as far as Gus Malzahn being a guy that's done it for a long time, I thought he certainly had a certain attitude out there on the field yesterday.
Let's jump over to some more here. Here we go. We've got Tommy going to Roydell Williams, who was hoping to have a bounce back season himself over here. But hey, there's another one of your favorite passes, VZ. You're getting good signs of what's ahead, buddy.
3 straight videos, 3 straight screens. I'm losing it already.
Here we go. This is what we're going to be seeing a whole lot of this upcoming season. Tommy
Screen.
Yeah, buddy.
To a 6'6" receiver. Gotta love it.
I think Gus and Mike did this on purpose because they knew.
Oh, they absolutely did.
Shooting video.
Yeah,
100.
they're just trolling.
They're definitely trolling the media and fans, getting back at them. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to see. They're not going to give away even anything. They won't give Deuce Robinson a deep post. Nothing too far to make it really enticing for you. And yeah, this is what you get.
They better not give Deuce Robinson any screen passes, especially.
No.
At 6'6".
Don't scare me like that.
Why are we installing this at all?
No, that would be nice. Let's just don't do any at all. But yeah, Deuce Robinson, no. That's
getting the fundamentals down.
Just if you're getting the hands warm, that's what you got to hope for here. Here we go. Here is Ousmane Kroma, the big time flip Florida State made on early signing day from the Georgia Bulldogs. What was your initial reaction to seeing him in person, and then and some movement here? I mean, just looking at the video though, he looks like an impressive man. The video twitches here right when he catches a ball and goes up the field, and I was like, holy crap, this kid is crazy. But it's a little glitch right there. I was like, God dang, that boy is moving fast.
Hey, maybe he did do that.
maybe he did.
He was so powerful, he caused the video to glitch. There you go.
He did, exactly. And here we are. I mean,
I don't know if that's a glitch. I don't know.
Let's all observe here. Let's see, because
I think it is a tiny glitch.
There's a little. Yeah,
I
mean, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? It's hard to tell because
I think it's real.
Here we are. This is why you're here. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure you hit that like button down below. This is what you get, some inside analysis up close and personal. But initial thoughts here, and I love that he's wearing 32, one of our favorite players here on the show. Here, the Spear alum, James Wilder Jr. When you think of a physical back, I immediately think of James Wilder Jr. Of course, you go back to Greg Jones. But hell yeah, man. What were your thoughts on this young man?
He's a big dude. I think the size is what jumps out immediately, especially when you remember wasn't here for the spring, just got here for the summer and summer workouts, and this is his first actual practice at Florida State. Kroma, he's definitely got some advanced size already on that frame. Thick lower half. Didn't really get to see him open it up as far as with the speed and everything, but Mike Norvell did talk about after practice, and he made sure to note, Florida State in helmets and jerseys didn't do a ton of team on day one of fall camp. That'll ramp up more once the pads are on. But Kroma was one of the guys who broke a bigger run in team drills. And Norvell said his acceleration and speed caught his attention. So only day one for this guy, a lot of way to go to get into that rotation for 2025. But I mean, I think he's immensely talented. You already heard Norvell say he didn't look like a typical true freshman during summer workouts. Coach Johnson said on Tuesday that he's different. I mean, he's just different. And at the same time, just because he's immensely talented, they don't want to put too much on his plate. They want to make sure that they're bringing him along at the right speed. But as we've talked about on this show, I mean, Kroma just has so much talent. It just seems like it's going to be hard to keep him off the field once he figures it all out.
It is, absolutely, and I would not be shocked if we see that man strap up and get some plays against Alabama. That would not shock me one bit whatsoever with the talent that he has. And just not only that, but also to the way that he's shown up build wise. He looks good. So I wish we could see more. Although I will say, in these practices, even when we were there with full access, it's hard to really determine how a running back looks because they don't go full go. But now with this new staff in, it seems like they made some changes where there's maybe a little bit more physicality, but nonetheless, so you don't really get to find out about running backs until you get into the games. But there's a lot to like, and you feel pretty positive moving forward with him with the addition of Usman Kroma in this running back room. Here's some of the quarterbacks working with the running backs. There's Keziah Holmes there. Who's throwing?
Yeah, I missed the Roydell rep. So Tommy and Roydell went first.
Here's Sawchuk. How did Sawchuk look to you in person as well? This is the Oklahoma transfer running back wearing number 27. And I kind of forget he's on this team. It's like, when it comes to transfers, it's like, whoa, okay, we got another running back in the room here with some experience. What he look like to you, D-Lou?
Another guy with some solid size on him, and once again, didn't really get to see him open it up with his speed and athleticism, but during some of the individual drills the running backs were doing with footwork and whatnot, I thought he looked really smooth, really clean. Did step on the bag one time, but other than that, I thought Sawchuk had a pretty solid day for what was his first practice at Florida State. And, Coach Johnson, this is another guy that he feels very highly on, adding him to that room. And I think with Kroma and Sawchuk coming in there, it's going to be a really fun couple of weeks at running back with those competitions ongoing. Obviously, Roydell, Holmes, Cam Davis, Samuel Singleton Jr., all in there fighting for playing time. So no matter how this shakes out, I think this competition over the next couple of weeks certainly going to push this room to be its best going into 2025, and they certainly need it after last season.
Yep. Here's one more rep here. Tommy to Usman. Kroma going up there and getting some stuff. Here's some of the wide receivers working with Tim Harris Jr. Like you were saying earlier, D-Lou, you thought he was one of the more vocal guys, hands-on, letting you know if you screwed up, which is great. This is
I liked it.
That's how it should be, man. And just going off the differences between Ron Dugans, we got to spend a lot of time with him in practices, and I wouldn't say lenient with some regards, but I think it's good to have a little fresh slate here, get a new guy in, and it's good to hear, though, in the coaching regards that very hands-on. That's what you need, man. This wide receiver room has to step up after what was a disastrous 2024 campaign.
Yeah, and admittedly, I didn't know how this move was going to work out. Obviously, Florida State was pursuing a couple of different guys to potentially fill that void at wide receivers coach before pivoting and bringing Tim Harris Jr. alongside Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand over from UCF. And this is a guy, maybe not a primary wide receiver coach throughout his career, has also coached running backs at times. So I was just kind of interested to see how it would work out. I would say my first impressions, pretty impressed with Tim Harris Jr., the way he was pushing those wide receivers, and excited to see if maybe a new voice in that room is going to help these guys that have already been here at Florida State for a while unlock some potential.
Here's some more stuff. Here's Mekhi Danzy and some action here at the wide receiver position. Guys, if you're listening to us on the podcast version, I highly suggest going over to the YouTube side, the visual side, to check out this episode because we've got a lot of videos here. Dustin cranked out a ton of videos, which are great shots here. Here is
point. I've only got one eye. The sweat was in my eye. I'm like,
oh, here we go, struggling hard. Yeah, it's real tough.
Grinding out there.
What a performance you really put on for all of us. Hey, we respect it. Thank you very much. Here's Manasseh, a TT going out of here. He's a big boy. Some of the other offensive linemen. Here is Elijah Herring, who I'm super excited about. This is a video from Tommy. I'm super stoked for Elijah Herring. I don't know about anybody else or anybody in the comments or watching on the show, but I think Elijah Herring is going to be a stud in this linebacker room. I think this was one of your best gets in all of whatever gets, transfer portal recruits. He is going to be a difference maker on this defensive side of the ball because not only does he had production in his previous stops, but also too leadership communication. That's something that was lacking last year. You had it jump up with a breakout guy with Juice Cryer, but adding that in tandem with Omar Graham Jr. and Juice Cryer and some of these other guys, I think that's huge, along with, too, Stephon Thompson, because he's been in that system with Tony White. So this is where, when we were previewing the linebacker room, you feel really, really comfortable moving into this next season here. And but I think Elijah Herring is going to be a stud for the Florida State Seminoles in 2025.
Yeah, he feels, a little bit like an Energizer bunny almost. And I think back to the spring, and not only the leadership like you were talking about, but it was the hustle and just the constant energy on the field that Elijah Herring brought that really stood out to the coaching staff. And I think one of the plays of the spring, which we never got a chance to see it in person, we got to have it described to us, but Elijah Herring, basically there was a big play completed against the defense, and it looked like it was going to be a touchdown, but Elijah Herring chased the guy all the way down the field, got there, made the tackle short of the goal line, and then the defense was able to force a turnover, an interception, I believe, a play or two later. So, that's the type of hustle that can obviously change an actual football game once Florida State gets out there on the field this fall. And have to imagine, he's going to be doing everything he can to bring those winning plays to Tallahassee.
Got some more offensive linemen. Chasden Brown, you were mentioning him earlier in this instant reaction there. Tall kid, very tall. Gunnar Hansen here. He's going to be your projected left starter or left tackle starter going into the season. Was limited for a majority of the whole spring camp as well. But there he is coming from Vanderbilt. Kevin Sperry, your true freshman quarterback, to Camden Friard there, trying to get the ball in over to the sideline with a low throw.
I think he got in.
You think so? I think he got get those toes dragged in. You just need one. Yeah, he got one in. Moving over to Elijah Moore, a little toe drag. Let's see what we got here. Okay. I like that route there. Getting down, dropping the hips, the break of the route, drop him. Yeah, a little bit. Nice. A little toe drag action there from Elijah Moore. Here's Biscuit. Were you nervous right here? Were you getting a little nervous getting close here, man? I had a feeling you probably would be right here like, oh, shit, man, please don't fall into me.
The one I got nervous for was Estes. I didn't know what to expect with an offensive lineman coming at me on the sideline.
Let's look at Mari Williams here. Yeah, he's definitely put on some size. You can tell. That's for damn sure. This is a throw from Tommy Castellanos. Jumping over. Robert Cooper was in the house.
Yeah, he looked really good too. He's in tremendous shape.
That's good to know.
Definitely is trimmed up.
I know he's still looking for an opportunity too somewhere at the pro level, and he's been getting some opportunities. He got some with the Miami Dolphins last training camp. So, but I know he's been working out and doing some stuff, and you can tell, like you said, in person there. That's good to hear. But here's KJ Sampson too, as someone that it's mandatory for him to take a big leap because you need it there at that depth, and try to see what that looks like, because he's right there with Daniel Lyons on getting, who's going to be right there beside, or, in some of those schemes with Daryl Jackson from the inside in that 3-3-5. Kevin MF and win, baby. God dang, 502, $1,000 of likes on Kevin MF and win. That's what we love to see.
Hey, I'll take it.
Hell yeah. And look at that. Yeah, that's a big boy. I do think, this is what's going to happen in fall camp. You're going to shed weight, and he's going to trim down a good bit more. He already made that kind of transition during summer workouts, but I can see him trim up a little bit more, and that's going to help him with his hand, a lot more of his technique too, as well, his twitchiness, because one of the things that you like about him is his physicality and his bull rush, and he can get back there on you. But I think one thing that Terrence Knighton's going to work with him a lot on is his hands and technique, and working a lot of different things, because how powerful he already has. That's one of his greatest attributes. But I wonder what he looked like in person to you, D-Lou.
Freaking massive. Jesus, you're like, this is a true freshman. I mean, man, and it wasn't a perfect practice.
Yeah.
This was like this rep we're watching. This was his repeat rep. He had to redo it, and Terrence Knighton was all over him. But at the same time, like that's just the coaching that the defensive line room is going to bring. I mean, Odell and Terrence Knighton, even when you do something right, I mean, they're going to push for you to do it even a little bit better. I think Kevin Wynn, he's got that size, like we said in the tweet, a ton of potential. And he's someone to watch throughout this fall camp because it wouldn't surprise me if he does begin to rise up that depth chart in the interior. And he's another guy like Chroma where, maybe not going to be a starter on day one when Florida State walks out against Alabama, but it's not going to surprise me if his role expands as the season continues and he puts some experience under his belt.
I agree. Keeping it moving here, getting a good view of what the new football-only facility looks like, and that's expected. That got moved back to October for the opening. I know it got pushed back a little bit for when that's going to open. I know it was originally going to be after the second game of the season, if I'm correct. I don't know. I did see a report. I believe it was from the Tallahassee Democrats saying that it got pushed back a little bit. But from so far, it looks like really, really impressive. And that's only going to enhance a lot of things for you. But here's Mike Norvell talking about the first day of practice. Just your regular coach speak to always start it off like Mike Norvell does. It's good to get back out. He did mention Jeremiah Wilson, like you were saying, and had a good PBU on a pass. Felt his energy, and that's not a shocker there. I mean, like I was saying, the way that he showed up to practice, it seemed like he was ready to go. But Usman Chroma broke off a big run and some of those team drills, which is a good sign there. And like we always say, or Todd Bowles says here in Tampa Bay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all until pads come on and there's actually tackling going on. But good sign that, Mike Norvell was impressed with his true freshman running back. There's a few more here. We got Mike Norvell and Darrell Jackson. They're really working on the consistency with Darrell Jackson. That's been key, and that's something we've highlighted all throughout this offseason. If he can be consistent with it, and that's what they're expecting from him this upcoming season, then he can be one of those top defensive tackles. But it just can't be where it's week to week. All right, there he is. Then the next week he's not there, or if it's in games, you want to see that on a series to series basis. But to me, though, a lot of that importance comes to also what your depth looks like and giving him time on the sidelines too, because I know they're going to have a lot of relying on him, but you got to have some depth there as well to give him some breathers, man. Can't all be relied there on D-Jack, but there's a lot on his shoulders going into this upcoming season. As we know, Mari Williams doing some cross training on the offense and defense, which is good. Outside of anything else that you already mentioned, D-Lou, anything from Mike Norvell that really stood out to you or from Deuce Robinson in their post-practice interviews, along with maybe Luke Pettibon?
Trying to think outside of what I tweeted. Not really for Mike Norvell. I thought Deuce Robinson had some really funny quotes, talking about the Heat. He was asked kind of to compare what he went through out there at USC to now what he's dealing with in Tallahassee, and basically said it feels like you're constantly drowning in hot air. And he's not really wrong.
No.
Luke Pettibon talked about some of those battles with Darrell Jackson, said that they're making each other better every day, and it's something that he really basically relishes to get a chance to do. He's like, not many offensive linemen around the country get to go against a defensive lineman in practice. That's probably going to be better than any defender you face during the upcoming regular season. Also spoke about, how happy he is to have those offensive line guys that missed the spring with injuries back so they can continue to build chemistry and cohesion. And Pettibon also stated, and I think you brought it up a little bit earlier in the show, Logan, but I mean, he's been working hard this summer, has added some weight, and he said that he believes he's in the best shape of his college career going into this 2025 season. And that says a lot because obviously he was at Wake Forest for a while, and he went out of his way to credit Josh Storms and his staff for the work that they've helped him and the rest of the team put in throughout the offseason.
Mm-hmm. Good professional veteran quote here talking about the season opener against Alabama. He said, we're really excited, but I think most importantly, we've got to focus on fall camp and practice tomorrow. And that's absolutely correct. Right now, you dial in on what's happening today and what's going to happen tomorrow. That game will come. It's going to come. And right now, it's just focusing on building that chemistry across the entire offensive line, which I think is very much of an importance after those guys were limited throughout majority of that spring. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the only viewing period that the FSU beat will get. We'll get some videos of guys walking in. You'll get post-practice interviews, but just for our own analysis there at practices, that's all she wrote. We had a scrimmage in the spring. We will not have a scrimmage to view this in this upcoming fall camp. I've seen a lot of the fans, pretty much fine with this, and they don't want to show anything to Alabama. I don't blame Mike Norvell, Gus Malzahn, any of that way, shape, or form. And just interested to start hearing some things from Mike Norvell once we start getting these pads on too, and seeing how this offensive line meshes now with Thomas Castellanos, how this communication works. And we'll have Dustin there, Tommy. Hopefully we get some answers from Mike Norvell, Herb Hand, on all that, because really a lot of my question marks predicate on what's happening in the trenches coming into this upcoming season. But before you guys leave, Shaq O'Neal's son practically committed to Florida State on the basketball court. Luke Laux, if you're ready for basketball to come back and actually, play Florida State basketball that we saw a good couple of years ago, hit the like button. But hit that like button down below. Might bring in some good juju for us. But Florida State landed an absolute monster on the basketball court, and Dustin thought it was a typo when VZ put out the tweet. But I'll let you go with the VZ. Tell us about this dude and start off with the size first, because the people need to hear it.
Yeah, so Florida State's first real recruit for the 2026 class, obviously, I have Jason Lopez, who committed, but he's more of a football recruit. 2026, 7 foot, 328 pounds, Marcise Ponder, out of West Oaks Academy, which is where Florida State assistant coach Gerald Gillian's brother is the head coach. So if there's going to be a recruitment that you had to win, this was one of them. He just put Florida State in his top list about a week ago, and then decided to go ahead and pull the trigger. He'll be visiting Florida State at the end of August for the Alabama football game, along with 4 other top 100 recruits, which is unbelievable for Laux in his first season. But yeah, Ponder, 7 foot 325. That's all you need to know. But you see that size and you're like, he's probably slow trotting, doesn't really get up and down the floor. He is an elite athlete, moves with the best of them, just an absolute physical monster down low. And everyone in my replies was going, can he play left tackle? You don't want someone this size playing left tackle. You don't want a 7-footer out there playing tackle. But he is athletic, incredibly strong, and a top 100 player, which if you're going to land your first recruit, this is a good way to get on the board. He's been nicknamed Baby Shaq. If you look everywhere, if you just put his name in the YouTube search bar, half of them say Baby Shaq. Absolute physical freak for someone this size. And I think part of the reason he's not a top 10 player in the class instead of just being top 100, he kind of relies on his strength a little too much, and he doesn't really have good free throw form or really any form outside of about 5 feet. But you see someone with these tools and this size, you take a chance on that. And I'm excited to see what Laux and this staff can develop him into, because, man, what a freak.
Epic last name, too.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of, wow, Christian Ponder's got good gene jokes. Not quite the same, but yeah, he's pretty insane.
There you go.
I don't think he's 330 pounds anymore. I think he's lost a little bit of the baby fat. He's probably somewhere around 300, 305. But he's still just an absolute mammoth. Human being.
Yeah, it feels like Florida State, they haven't had a guy like this with this type of size down there in the middle and quite some time. So, I mean, we'll see what Luke can do. Obviously, he wants to run more of an NBA-style system, so it'll be interesting to see how Ponder develops once he gets to Tallahassee. Maybe he adds a little bit of range to that game, but either way, I mean, that type of frame, 7 foot, around that 300-pound mark, I mean, there's just potential there that you cannot teach.
I posted a clip yesterday where he came up to hedge the ball screen, and he got out of position. The ball got fed to his man, and he within 2 steps he recovered and blocked the shot. It was unbelievable, the kind of speed this dude moves with. It doesn't seem real.
Dude, Luke Laux. I was looking up. So Shaquille O'Neal in high school played around 250 pounds. When he went into the league, though, he showed up as 7'1" and was 300 pounds. So, like you said, VZ, probably trimmed down maybe below 300. But, I mean, looking at this AAU video, which I don't know how old this was. One was posted back in May, but he looks like he's trimmed up a good bit. I mean, it's not bad a weight. I mean, you can tell.
No, it's not. If he's still at that 325 mark, he is carrying it in the absolute best way possible.
Yeah, one of the best to ever do it. But, I mean, this gets you really excited, man, because what you're used to with Leonard Hamilton and during his coaching tenure was these thinner guys, these project guys that you'd sometimes grab overseas, and it'd take about 2 years to really get them going. But this might be a menace to some of these menace to society. What they're bringing on the inside for Luke Laux. Like this is some nasty work.
The comparison that I kept getting in Twitter was how does he compare to Michael Ojo with his size? Obviously, rest in peace to the big fella, but
Yep.
Ojo, at least his senior season, was about 7'305" ish, and he was just a solid chunk of muscle. He didn't have hardly any body fat on him. So this guy's got 20 pounds on him, hypothetically, which is insane to say.
Yeah, Ojo was just insanely jacked.
Yeah. But still, real quick though, VZ, I mean, they're hot on the recruiting trail. A lot of guys putting Florida State in their top 10s or 5s or 6, whatever they are nowadays, top 50. But tell us a little bit of some of those that Luke Laux put himself in a good spot right now. Yeah,
so just in the last few days, they've got official visits set up with top 75 player Kevin Thomas, a wing out of Fort Lauderdale. In the top 5 with Gage Mayfield, another top 75 guy. He's actually going to be on campus today. Before that Florida State-Alabama game, I halfway joked, halfway seriously wondered if Coach Laux is going to have a better list of visitors for the Alabama game than Mike Norvell, and I think he might, honestly. He's got 5-star Tony Bryant on campus, top 80 players, Colin Paul, Kevin Thomas. You have Marcy Spahn, who just committed on campus, and then a name that'll make Dustin feel old, Brandon Bass Jr., another top 100 player, will be on campus for that weekend. So 5 top 100 players on campus for the Florida State-Alabama game. And Florida State basketball has historically done their recruiting visits around football games because the kids can kind of see the atmosphere of the whole campus. That's going to be a great game to be at for all these kids. And if Mike Norvell can get his team looking right, who knows?
It might translate and help out over to Luke Laux and the staff there. But I thought it was a really cool. I went and watched the video kind of behind the scenes. I think they're putting out like a little series doc going on.
They've got another one coming out tonight.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. As me and covering a lot of the Florida State athletics, I think it's great to see now the transition of Luke Laux coming in and what he's been able to do. Very personable, it seems like, with not only the players, but the coaching staff and the offices. I suggest you guys go check that out on, I don't know where it's at, Florida State Seminoles YouTube channel. But was a really good behind the scenes look at what Luke Laux has got going on. And there's always, as a new coach and new staff, you always get that kind of hype and you usually are able to find some success on the recruiting trail. But, this boy that they just grabbed here, that excites me. That gets me going. So and he's a chirper too.
Yeah, he is. He talks a lot. But Laux is doing and saying all the right things, even more so than I thought he would. Like, even I think it was yesterday or the day before, they held an open practice where anyone from Florida State athletics can come by and watch and participate, which I thought was a neat idea, just to get all the athletic programs involved. So yeah, he's doing everything right. Hopefully it can lead to on-court success, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what matters. But he's doing and saying all the right things, and he's off to a much better recruiting start than I would have ever anticipated.
Absolutely. Good stuff there. This was our instant reaction to Florida State's first day of fall camp for the 2025 season. We'll be back with you guys live next week. If you enjoy these kind of 2-episode type of weeks, let us know. We want to give as much content to you guys as possible going into this upcoming season. As per usual, though, once we get into game days, you will have a full-on preview of the opponent. And then 2, we'll have an instant reaction as soon as possible after press conference duties are over. So you'll also have another episode there. But we want to try to give as much as possible to you guys over here on YouTube. But with you showing your support, showing likes, commenting, giving us topics to talk about, it helps us a ton. It keeps the show going. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us on this beautiful Thursday. Stay cool, hydrate, get your electrolytes in, and the Florida State Seminoles hit the practice field later this afternoon. We'll have some press conference stuff from that. But with that, that is going to do it. We'll see you next week on Hear the Spear. Peace.